All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking Owe Zurgi's absolutely striking 1921 painting, Victoria Mortis, and exploring the profound allegory it holds for our own lives. If you're looking at this piece for the very first time, you might just see a simple, quiet game of chess. But take a closer look at that title. It doesn't say the battle of death. It translates literally to the victory of death. Right off the bat, the ending of this match is baked right into the premise. And this brings us to a quote that really sets the stakes for what our sources call the most honest game ever played. No weapons, no armies, just a board and two players, and one of them is already calm. I mean, think about that. There are no weapons here, right? No massive armies clashing on some chaotic battlefield. It's literally just a board, two players, and one of them is already completely, terrifyingly calm. It perfectly sets up this scenario where the ending is already decided, yet the game is still being played with absolute intensity.
So this brings us to a really fascinating question. What do you do when you realize you're playing the wrong game entirely? Looking at the painting, we start by focusing on the young man. He's deeply focused, clearly thinking he's facing a supreme test of intelligence. He's, running the numbers, making the cleverest plans he can possibly formulate. But here's the catch. He is completely unaware that his opponent across the table knows it isn't a test of intelligence at all. It's a test of time.
And man, this is the quiet horror that Zurg hides right in plain sight. Notice the stark contrast here. The human player brings absolutely nothing to the table. No armor to protect him, no military rank to hide behind, no costume, just bare, vulnerable skin. You can see his calculating hands pressed so tightly to his forehead, which, if you ask me, is arguably the most human thing in the entire image. He's frantically calculating. Meanwhile, Death's hand just moves across the board. No hesitation, no rushing. It just waits patiently. Because, well, Death has done this countless times before. It's a vulnerable human calculating frantically against an opponent who literally never needs to sweat the clock.
Section 1. The asymmetrical board.
To really grasp this concept, imagine a giant hourglass sitting on the table right beside that chessboard. Its sand is steadily running out to mark roughly 100 years of a human lifespan. So the young man isn't just playing against death, is he? He's actually playing against that sand. Just look at this massive asymmetry. On one side, we have death, an opponent who plays infinite games across infinite time, waiting with just absolute unwavering patience. And then on the other side, there's you. You get exactly one finite, irreversible game and one single hourglass. You're not out calculating an equal rival here. Our sources emphasize that this asymmetry is the whole point. Because your game is finite, every single move you make carries monumental weight. It matters a million times more to you than it ever could to your opponent.
Section 2. 3 ways to sit at the table.
Now, since we all eventually have to sit at this exact table, our sources break down how we respond to a game we absolutely cannot win. Moving up these 3 steps reveals so much about our psychology. The first option, refuse to play. But if you do that, death just moves first and often, and your existence practically ends long before the sand even runs out. Actually, that's really just paralyzing fear disguised as caution. Step 2 is to play carelessly, just to pass the time. But death sees right through that and wastes the game for you anyway. That's just fear disguised as ease. So, step 3 is the only one that truly works. Play with everything you have. This courageous stance takes all that dread and turns it into active, fierce engagement. Because, honestly, here's the truth. Playing well doesn't remove death from the board. It just stops death from being the only thing on it. If you refuse to play or just casually pass the time, you basically vanish from the board. But playing with absolutely everything you have, that forces death to respect the contest. You reclaim your space.
Section 3. Finding your win condition.
So if we absolutely cannot win this match in the traditional sense of defeating the opponent, we have to completely rethink what victory actually means. And this brings us to a really profound question. What are you buying this time for? The big realization we draw from our sources is that playing well is absolutely necessary, sure, but it's also deeply incomplete. The sharpest question isn't just how skillfully you're moving the pieces, it's why you are moving them. Because immense skill without a deeper purpose, that's just a longer stalemate. Skill is just the means, it's definitely not the actual win condition. To really understand that win condition, we can look back to an ancient concept, memento mori. This is the Stoic tradition of actively remembering our own mortality. In older versions of this allegory, the game itself is rarely the ultimate goal. It's more of a delaying action, right? It's time bought so that something else, something deeply meaningful in your life outside the game, can be finished first.
The Stoics didn't try to win against mortality, they tried to become the kind of person death simply could not cheapen. The absolute best outcome on offer in this match is death respecting the contest. But that respect from your opponent, it's really just your own self-respect reflected right back at you. Earning respect from your opponent is the undeniable proof of a well-constructed life, regardless of how the match finally ends. You made your moves matter, and that internal validation, that's the real trophy.
Section 4. The hourglass cuts both ways. Now this part challenges a super common assumption we all make about that unpredictable amount of sand left in our hourglass. On one side, we've got the idea that playing well might stretch your time toward its natural limit, earning you this long, drawn-out game. But on the flip side, some of the very best games played in this allegory are actually incredibly short. The crucial takeaway here is that while playing well might extend your time, that extension is merely a possible byproduct. It is never, ever a guarantee.
So the most durable philosophy, the one that holds up whether your hourglass is 100 years long or heartbreakingly short, is this. You've got to engage fiercely, simply because the match itself is worthy. Play well because the game deserves it. Let any extension of time be a wonderful bonus, but never the core reason you sit down at the table.
I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. As you look at the board in front of you today, in your own life, I want you to ask yourself, are you playing your one finite game with enough purpose, with enough fire to make your opponent pay attention? Don't just pass the time, make your moves matter. Play the game so well that death itself leans in.